Great administrative folks helping us out. We had about 350 people in the squadron, 12 F-14s, and great pilots, great young pilots. It was wonderful to bring in these young guys and teach them how to fight the airplane. Their first time they came in the squadron, they would come in and we'd go out and I'd go fight with them, and we'd in 1 versus 1, guns only, no missiles, so they really had to learn how to fly the airplane, and we continued to do that through their whole time. So my squadron really got very, very good at that, and air-to-air gunnery, I remember that, plus obviously we went on cruise and then actually went to Desert Storm and had a very successful time.
There was a time, I guess when did Tomcat officially retire? Just within the last year, right?
Yeah, last year.
Well, the last year, but I know there was a time, 10, 12, 13 years ago, they thought the Tomcat had seen its service and the F-18 was coming on. And I know, again, it's a little known fact, it's probably known throughout the Naval Service, that Snort had such a great love for the airplane and such a great love for this country. He knew it was a great asset. It was one of the best airplanes ever built. And on his own, he borrowed I'm probably telling the story a little bit wrong, so correct me, but he borrowed a FLIR system, right? FLIR system from the Air Force. And he mounted this FLIR system on the F-14, and on his own he developed the Bombcat. And once it was done, rather than going through the military-industrial complex and having all of us spend billions of our dollars, once it was done and this system was developed, he called the Navy brass and said, we've developed this great system, or we've developed, my team, this great system to make the F-14 an attack airplane, in addition to the world's best fighter at the time, and literally single-handedly extended the life of that airplane for at least 10 years and made it this spectacular, this absolutely awesome national asset that it was and still is as far as I'm concerned. Want to tell us about that a little bit?
Well, it really wasn't all me. I just happened to be the wing commander, and we sort of set in motion a drug deal, so to speak, with Martin Marietta, who was then producing the lantern pod that was on the F-15E Strike Eagle, along with another sort of consulting company that did a lot of great work behind the scenes. And we had the ability to do what we call a fleet prototype, which would take us out of the acquisition world up in Washington, which is extremely slow and it takes forever. To get this done through that process probably would have taken 10 years on its own. So anyway, just within 6 months from the time this was right after I took over command of the wing, I shook hands with Martin Marietta. They sent down a team of about 4 truly brilliant young men and engineers, and I put together some really smart guys from my staff and my squadrons. And they went in a period of, in 6 months, we were able to drop a GBU-16, 1,000-pound laser-guided bomb successfully. And this was all precipitated by the fact that I had just come from Desert Storm, where we were an air-to-air asset only, and a lot of the action was in the ground, and I developed, I got to the point that I was a very good strafer, which is another 10 or 12 stories involved with that. But the bottom line was, I knew that as the A6 was leaving, we needed a precision strike platform on the carrier, and the F-18s at the time, their FLIR laser pod was fairly, it wasn't nearly as good as it needed to be. So with that in mind, we did this deal, and when we successfully dropped the first weapons, we went down to Puerto Rico, to Vieques, which is a target range that's now closed, and we made a movie. And then I went on the road with the blessing of my 3-star, and I went to all the commanders-in-chiefs of the various warfighters, the sinks as we call them, both in the Pacific, in the Europe, and the Atlantic, and said we could provide this asset in 6 months, and they all jumped on it, and they, being the warfighting 4-star admirals, called Washington and said, make this happen.